I do want to ask you about some other stuff. I promise we are going to get to Gail Kim. That is going to be
Oh,
our
I feel the running rib again.
No, it's not happening. But we had to talk about football. We had to talk about you strutting with Tony Khan. Those were big things. Over the weekend, I think the wrestling world was treated to what Triple H referred to as the biggest Survivor Series in history.
Wow.
He actually took to social media to post about that. I guess there's, I don't know the exact number, but like 46,000 and change people who were there. And, of course, this was featured on Netflix and the ESPN app. So a lot of people had an opportunity to see this. WWE is calling it the biggest Survivor Series of all time. And I want to talk to you about that in a moment. But first, I want to ask, did you have a chance to catch any of the Dominic Mysterio, John Cena, Liv Morgan business?
Look, Cody gave me the complete update. And thank God that he did. But and I told him, I said, hey man, send me anything. So if you're going to ask me about stuff, I've seen it in clips. I know she returned. Dom went over. It's got to be, just think about that kid. Grew up in San Diego. I'm sure he's been, maybe not to that specific stadium, but been around the Padres and, Ray essentially, uprooting his, or starting, uprooted his family, brought him, raised a Mexico City kid, but he settled in San Diego. And so for Dom to beat John Cena in San Diego at Survivor Series, his next to last match in his career, it's
special.
It is. And they are, you talk about really a concentrated effort to build with concrete or with rocks. They are building a foundation of Dom that is, and I'm sure this is why they're doing it. Their hope is that it will last 20 years, building a real strong foundation that's special, man. Just everything. I'm stating all the obvious, but Cena, a pro's pro, but man, oh man, big deal, a huge deal.
It feels like there's been a lot of criticism recently. We even saw Brian Alvarez rattling off that AEW and WWE have what he perceived to be an age problem, that all the top performers, the guys in the main events, are high 30s, 40s, 50s, wherever they are. Alvarez was sort of challenging people to say, hey, throw it on somebody, under 30 or under 25 or whatever it is. And it feels like WWE, between Stephanie McCool and Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker getting a pin over CM Punk, it feels like they're trying to lean into the youth movement. And we've seen Triple H do appearances and, talk about how, people are talking about the ages of where we are right now, but he's really excited about where we're going. I know JR would always say things like, hey, wrestling fans want new, they crave new. Do you think there's an age problem in wrestling? Do you think that, when you were running TNA and you were sort of making all of those decisions, were you always looking to someone X number of years or younger, or is it less about that and it's more about X number of years on TV? Like, it doesn't matter if the guy's 25. What matters is, has a national audience seen him? Like, what was your methodology? Or if you want to lean into it, what was your dad's methodology in regards to age?
Well, I'll kind of that's my jumping off point. It always takes me back to there was a promoter, Leroy McGurk. People may know Mike McGurk, the blonde-haired ring announcer for the WWF for years. But Leo was blind, and my father, used to often come up with different stories that he knew, witnessed firsthand. In that, a blind man doesn't look at age; they just listen. And so I have, that's what I was taught. That is something that at the end of the day, this is a generational topic of discussion now in the heater and the microcosm of social media. It ebbs and flows, but it feels at times a lot hotter than it is. Absolutely at the end of the day, I think it's a balance. And look, me and you are wrestling junkies. And what was it? gosh, it was Cody and Punk, and the different champions were all at a certain age and this and that. But it can change overnight. But I always go back to it's situational. It is had a discussion. Conrad had a Zoom call Friday with the gentleman in Switzerland, and we got into that discussion. And I said there is a reason that wrestling in essence is such a unique, it goes back to the same conversation I have had a billion times. We're obviously not true sport. We are entertainment, but it's kind of a niche in that you have to understand the feedback that you're hearing. And the more tuned you are with your ear on what you're hearing, some people can hear a yay and a boo. And quite frankly, sometimes there's a lot in the middle of all that. So I always go by my ear, and how segments connect, how the outcome of a bar. But I just think the simple term is a balance, because I do think there is comfort sometimes going with, I'll call it the veterans. But there's a reason they're the veterans, is because they've had success after success after success after success. And sometimes too much too soon. And me and you, Conrad, I don't know who comes to your mind. And I could probably, if I sat here for just a couple of minutes, say, if you give a young talent too much too soon, it is, I don't say impossible, but it is so hard to unwind that. If you give them a championship or a main event spot or something that we're not ready, because then people see them fall flat on their face on a national. I mean, truly, that's why, there was wisdom in my old man saying, nope, you're not going to WCW when I was 3 or 4 years into the business. You need more seasoning. I think there's a whole lot to that, because when I got my shot at WWF, I was a much more seasoned, confident performer, although I thought I was confident 3 or 4 years before that. So too much too soon can kill a talent. And I think at the end of the day, that is something that the people that sit in those seats have to be very, very aware of.
I don't want to name any names, and I know you don't want to name any names. I'm not going to ask you to name any names. However, as you're running through that, do you think of the same person I did in WWE?
In WWE, I'll tell you who I think had a ton of natural charisma, but too much too soon. Eric Watts. I think it's a damn shame how his wrestling career got off the ground. He was never able, I think, to catch up from that. He's a really talented guy. WWE, too much too soon.
There's nobody doing it right now, you don't think? I'm not asking you to say a name, because I don't want to dump on somebody who's doing it right now, because I don't want to be a negative influence on someone's career. But as you're saying that, it's like, one name comes to mind.
We side text about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely destroying. There will come a time. What is that? Point of no return.
Did you put Christmas on a credit card? Don't stress out about that extra holiday spending. SaveWithConrad.com can help you consolidate all of your high interest rate credit cards into one much lower monthly payment. SaveWithConrad.com has helped families just like yours save up to $800 a month. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket. And did I mention no payments until March? So don't make saving money your resolution next year. Make it happen today at SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.